Hey, it's maple syrup time, everybody. And it is, I know it's been a while since you all have seen us, and that may account for the low numbers that we're seeing right at the start, but that's okay. It's okay. We're still here. And we love being here, and we want you to come back and see us. But when we all go to conventions all the time, it makes it a little difficult. We do try to run from remote areas sometimes, but isn't always the best audio, isn't always the best internet. So thank you for coming back after a little bit of a hiatus. Hey, it's Jessica Andrus. Welcome to the show. Nice
Who's
to see
also
you.
somewhere more remote now, I believe.
What do you mean? What do you mean? They've moved?
Um,
They're like,
Jessica's just had some exciting news about a new home and has moved. And I learnt today that, you know how you're in Eastern time? I just figured Eastern time was the easternest of the North American, like, continental block, basically. But no, there are two
no,
more.
there's more. There's Atlantic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Jessica's in the easternest of those now, or will
Oh,
be.
where are
Yes.
you? Jessica's moving soon. And Jessica, where are you moving? Just give me the regional area. You don't have to be super specific, but
Here
you know,
is
for
my
safety
exact home
reasons.
address on the
Right. Don't
internet.
do that. Don't do
No,
that.
not that. But we've been looking at this cute little house that they're moving into, and so NL. I can't remember. Is that Newfoundland?
NL?
Yeah, it's a Canadian one. I can't remember what
You
NL
head
stands
more east and we land in Africa. True. Yeah.
for.
So they are on the edge of the country. Newfoundland is like the furthest
Oh, right. You say it
east you
differently,
can
don't
get.
you? I was like,
Yeah.
Newfoundland. And you're like,
No.
huh? I'm like,
No.
Newfoundland.
Newfoundland.
Okay.
Just like
Newfies.
Toronto is Toronto.
Ah, okay. All
And
right.
it's just regional pronunciations and getting lazy. That's what it is. It's
Well, I
also
mean, we
just
were just in
like
Baltimore, and that's actually
no
Baltimore, I think.
Baltimore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and you'll find like if you think about linguistics and stuff like that, just like the shift. There's also shift towards rounder vowels. So it's interesting. Interesting. Oh, so anyways, today we're gonna be talking about conventions, those things that have kept Cat and I away from y'all. Um, while it's sad for us not to see you, it is happy for us to get out to conventions, and so we hope to see you there sometimes too. Kat, where have you been in the last couple of weeks? You were at where? First, you were at
Um. Oh, why did I just blank? I was at Gamma Expo.
yeah. So GAMA Expo for the
Yes.
first time in the history of GAMA was in Tennessee,
No,
and so
it was in Louisville.
oh, Kentucky. Yes, sorry.
Yes. See,
Um,
I can kind of say that one, Louisville. That's why it's been funny to find out like the way to say the different names. But they've actually got a sign in the convention center of all the different ways that people from Louisville say it, like Louisville, Louisville, which someone apparently says. I was like,
that person,
Louisville,
you should not listen to that
Louisville,
one person.
Louisville, Louisville. So that's fun. Yeah, so that was the first time that Expo was in Louisville.
Yeah.
And it was also our first booth at a trade show for
Oh,
games.
nice. Yeah. So you had to actually pack all of your dressing,
Mm-hmm.
all the cloth and
Dressing?
material and stuff.
Not ranch. This is like this is to make a set,
Yeah.
as in our
Yeah, like
whole booth. So
tablecloths and
flooring,
things,
tablecloths, backdrops, those sorts of things.
right?
And a
Right.
lot
Right.
of folk will send those, the big companies will send them like on a pallet and all that kind of stuff. But because we're teeny tiny, we just basically had it as our carry-on. Well, sorry, as our checked luggage.
Yeah.
So we checked a whole booth, which didn't include tables. Our
Right.
tables and chairs and things were supplied as part of the booth.
Okay. So
Um,
let's talk about that because this is actually interesting stuff that people may not know or understand. When you booth at a con, what do you get by
well,
purchasing a space?
in general, nothing.
Yeah.
In general, you get whatever the square meterage or footage is. So in our case, 10 by 10 feet and nothing else. And what they do to delineate that is they have basically pipe like scaffolding that is
Yep.
set up, and it's got some blacks hanging off it, which is the black fabric,
Yep.
and that's it. That's
Yeah,
all
so
you've got.
pipe and drape is what
Yep.
you get by default. You don't necessarily get a table by default, you don't necessarily
Mm-mm.
get a chair by default. So,
Nope.
a lot of stuff you'll end up bringing with you or paying some fee to rent from the
Yes.
convention center, and so it can get really expensive depending on what you can bring, what you can buy, what you can leave. Also, depending on with this thing called drayage.
Yes.
Drayage is like a
That's
union
not us.
fee.
It's not us.
No, don't blame Cat or George for this. It's what the unions charge to carry stuff in for you, because you shouldn't be carrying stuff in that's of a size, of a certain size and dimension. That's a union person's job, and unions are there for a reason, um, because it's for safety and all that kind of stuff too. But it ends up costing quite a bit. Um, so yeah, how'd you get a table? How'd you get a chair? What'd you do with those? Did you fly them back to Seattle with you or to Portland with you? Sorry.
Portland. No, we didn't. I was lucky enough to be selected as one of the 7 Horizons Fellows through the GAMA DEI program this year,
Yeah,
who are publishers. So there are 7 publishers and 7 retailers who were selected this year. And I and Drea Inc. were selected as one of those. So one of the things that we got as part of that, which is very amazing, is we also got the table and chairs supplied, and we got our insurance paid for.
which is a big
These,
deal, to be honest.
yeah, they don't sound like much, but actually that's apart from having the booth itself supplied to us, having those extra things, it's a big deal because we didn't have to deal with going through the different companies in order to hire tables and things like that. We just simply had them.
Yeah.
We did have to bring our own flooring though. They actually made sure that we had carpet supplied, which was very kind because most
Yeah,
people
because normally they
did not
don't.
get carpet. But we actually wanted more than carpet, so we we had this big cardboard box with our foam, those puzzle mat
Yeah,
type
puzzle mat.
things. We
Yep.
got some of those, so we had a
Yeah.
rainbow grid of those that we
Very
had
nice,
down
very
on
nice.
the floor as well.
So, why did you want those and not just carpet?
Well, so George and I have got a lot of experience with craft markets, and we know that when you're on your feet all day, a little bit of thin carpet is not enough. And it's also really nice for people who've been trudging around on those horrible sort of concrete floors to step onto your spongy floor. And so people are more likely to come chat with you if it's more comfortable for them to stand. So you don't just want a mat for you behind the table. It's a great idea to have a mat for the whole booth space. Plus, it's a great look. And what we actually agreed with our neighbor, Emily Vincent from
Oh,
Pinkwalk
yeah.
Games, who's been on the show,
Yeah.
we arranged to be next to each other. And so we actually took the divider out. And because we got the same
You
puzzle
made
mats,
a
we
mega
actually,
booth.
yeah. So
I like
instead of
it.
a 10 by 10, we had a 10 by 20, which opened the whole space up. And it meant that people felt much more comfortable walking into the area. And we joined our mats together so that it all looked really tidy.
Very nice,
Emily had a
very nice.
different combination of colors, but it looked really cool.
That's
And
good.
I see that we've got, excuse my voice, I see that we've got some of our fellow fellows in the chat. Hi, Pauline.
Yeah.
Um,
We've got Pauline Fake Kong from Hot Banana Games, who we actually mentioned in our keynote speech, at, UnPub. So, yeah, you're extra famous, Pauline.
mm,
So Pauline Fate and her partner Marie are the publishers behind Hot Banana Games and their upcoming project, which is about moon bunnies or
Moon
something
bunny.
like that. I don't know. Some other Chinese thing. And I'm just joking. I love it. And of course I love it. And then they did Steam Up, which is about dim sum.
Yeah, just some random game about like, is
Yeah,
it
they won a
dim
bunch of
sum,
awards.
something like
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Yeah.
And Pauline is saying that Kat was so nice, always checking up on all the fellows and keeping them all in the loop, making sure they didn't miss out on events, which is kind of like what you need. You need a con mom. You're now
That's
con mom.
exactly what everyone was calling me.
So I don't know if you know this, but I'm con dad.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I'm the person that people go to because I'm sober, and I'm always, you know, I
Also,
yeah.
yeah.
right? So everybody always comes to me when they don't know where to go or when they have problems or to resolve a dispute or to ask a question about a contract or something like that. And it's like, oh, just go see Condad. He's sitting in the corner over there, not drinking.
Yes, and I've often got the pins. I try and the pins get really heavy, but I try and make sure that I've got pins that say things like, "You're safe with me," for
Yeah.
trans people and queer people and things like that who might be having a little bit of a moment.
Hmm.
And yeah, so that's something else that, if you've already been to cons, that's something that you can give to people,
Right.
is just like, "Hey, I'm
Safe.
not freaking
Yeah.
out. I'm a
Yeah.
safe person. You could just come hang out with me."
Yeah. And that
Um,
if you're approaching somebody when they're in crisis, you're not going to add to it.
yes.
Right.
Well, we're gonna do our best not to. I can't promise
Right.
it because I have no training,
Intent.
but I
You're
have
not intentionally
experience.
going to add to it. Right. Whereas some
Yes.
people might do that.
Yes.
Jessica asked this question, which is kind of why we started this. Is like she was curious, how much did you end up leaving behind so you didn't need to bring it back?
So, um, Magical Andrew from, Chip Theory Games,
Yeah.
who was our sponsor, managed to save me from having to abandon a table that I really didn't want to abandon, because apparently, given the cost of shipping and drayage and everything else like that, what a lot of us actually have to do is buy something, have it delivered to the convention, and then abandon it.
Yeah.
And I hate that. But Andrew knew some people who are also going to Origins and just basically said, "Hey, can you palletize this table and can Cat pick it up off you?" And I was like,
Yeah.
"Thank you." So, yeah, my little round table that Kurt from Smirk and Dagger got to the convention for me. See, we're super lucky. We got so much help. This is
Yeah. But
not the
that's
normal
how
experience is having to manage it all yourself.
But that
And we
is
got
how
all
people
these people
survive
help.
though, right? Is,
Mhm.
on the kindness of other people in the industry who are doing maybe slightly bigger things than you, but have room to take your table or whatever, right?
Yes.
So the thing about it, everybody, is that if you want furniture, go after a con to convention center and look in the dumpster. I'm
Yes.
serious. They're going to be
Yes.
like barely used folding chairs and uh barely used folding tables all throughout that place because um people just can't afford to take it with them, which is
Mm.
sad because it
It's
does increase
horrible.
the waste, right? But it's the cost of everything else. It's not the cost of the table. The table is actually cheap compared to bringing it in and bringing it out and packing it and palletizing it and sending it and shipping it here and there, right? So, would it be nice to have everything where you could just kind of like add water and inflate it all? Yeah, that'd be great, but that doesn't exist. And until it exists, we have to deal with this.
And a lot of East
Yeah,
Coasters will drive from convention to convention in their, sort of U-Haul sized trucks.
yeah,
And so they can keep their tables and chairs and things, but we're West Coast. And I really tried. I looked at it and I was like, how can we do the driving though? Because with craft markets, I'm used to packing my vehicle and driving from
oh
market
yeah,
to market. It's just not feasible here. I can't drive for 35 hours just to be able to bring my own table.
no.
So, a $65 table is not worth what ends up being 3 or 4 hours, 4 days of driving, because you can't realistically drive all of that in the time that it takes. So
Yes, just that is exactly what I said, is that I am often the con dad, and it's often because I'm the sober one in the room. Also because I'm, just a person that people will
old.
talk to. I'm also old, so yeah, I get to be con dad a lot, which is fine. I don't mind that role. It's okay.
And it
I kinda
happens to
own it.
me for similar reasons, because
Yeah,
again, I'm sober too, but also like I'm one of those people who has a lot of anxiety about, oh, what if I don't have this thing? And so I make sure that I have the thing and then I let people know I have the thing. So for
yeah, or
example,
she
I
doesn't
have
let other
like,
people forget the thing either, right? So
yes, so I've always got like what I call a market kit, which has like scissors and pens and tape and band-aids and period products and things like that, and a first aid kit and like painkillers and all the things that I actually pretty much never need myself. But there's always someone who's like, "Excuse me, does anyone have?" And I'm pretty much always that. If I don't have it, I'll have it next time because someone asked.
yeah, and just you can get to know me sometime, that's fine. But I'm basically the same, like, I have my bag of lozenges and hand sanitizer and scissors and stickers and meeples and dice and things people need for the games, but also things people just need for themselves and their health and, you know, aspirin and, you know, antihistamines for people with allergies in different cities and all that kind of stuff. Like I guess it's just because 'cause we're conscientious, not in a over-aggrandizing ways, but just like I need all this stuff myself, or I have
Yeah,
needed this at some point in my life. So maybe you need it too. And I have a big
I've
old
been in
bag of
that
it. So
place.
yeah,
I
I've been
think a
to this
lot of
place.
that I've been the one who's gone, "Oh, no, how do I ask for a something?" Even if it's a pen,
Yeah.
or, "Oh, no, this broke and I've got nothing to fix it with." So I've always got gaffer tape
Yeah.
because once you've been to any of these things and you've realized
Without
horribly
any tape,
gaffer tape.
you never want to be stuck in that situation again.
No, because
Right?
there's always something you need to fix. There's always something that goes wrong, and so if you always have your kit, it's very reassuring.
It is well, okay, so people don't know this about me, but I have go bags. I have go bags like everywhere. I don't know why I do. I haven't sat myself down to think about this recently yet. I think I know a little bit. Um, but you know how spies have go bags? I'm not a spy, but I have go bags.
Yeah.
So part of it, I think I've actually talked about it on the show before that I have a bag at work that is a change of clothes, you know, a change of shoes. And they were there over pandemic. I just looked in my desk the other day in my office and said, "Oh yeah, that thing." It's a little backpack that has all the things I need if something goes horrendously wrong with like my clothes and my underwear or something. Like, maybe if I pooped my pants or something while I was at work, I'd have a whole change of clothes. And this particular type of go bag with all my clothes stems from my work in clinic where I worked with little babies who would pee and poo and barf on me all day long. So I had to have a change of clothes. But I've always had stuff like this. My entire life is based around how much survival material can I fit in a little tin. That is my jam. That is what I do in my spare time. That is how I solve my anxiety issues. Is by
I've
having everything that I ever need in a kit. If you ever see over there, you'll see my. You might not see it because it might be off camera, but I have big roller bins of that I carry all my equipment in, my gear. That has like the exact. I cut out shapes in foam for the exact shape of the microphone and all that. So all my gear is like that. It's always been like that because
I
I
love
have
this.
to have it. I have to. Otherwise, I feel like I might not have it. I feel anxious. So
Yeah,
that's how I cure my anxiety is by preparing in
have the
maybe
thing.
a little bit of a obsessive way.
In
So,
my backpack, I always have a spare pair of undies and a spare pair of socks, like, everywhere I go. Plus, I grew up in earthquake country, so I have always in my car, near the door, and, when I worked in an office under my desk, I always had a survival kit that included,
yeah,
like, food for multiple days,
yeah.
water for multiple days, a first aid kit, high-vis,
What are
basic
hivers?
high-vis, like a high-vis jacket, because like high
That sounds like
visibility.
nothing in North America.
The people who work on like, oh, when you look out the window and you see the people waving at the plane,
Oh,
or
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
people,
okay, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's high visibility shirts. So
Oh,
the bright,
high vis.
yeah, that's my
Oh,
accent.
I thought you said hiver. What's a hiver?
Yeah, I was
Are
like,
they
I'm
some
just
people who
gonna
work with
not keep
bees?
saying the words because you'll get what I
Okay.
mean
No,
eventually.
I do, I get
But
it.
I've got a high vis
No, no,
jacket.
Jess, I'm really not a prepper.
No, it's
I
not
don't
prepper
think it's
stuff.
doomsday. It's really anxiety.
Yes,
Anyway.
and I mean, for me,
About not
it's
about the
training.
bomb or chaos or apocalypse. It's about everyday anxiety for me, I
Yeah.
think.
Well, I mean,
Uh,
if you poo your pants, it's probably the worst thing in the world. Like, it's
yeah.
right then, that's
Have I
terrible.
ever done that? No. Does a risk exist? Sure, I poop.
I mean,
Those are things you
there's
learn on
always a
people's trips,
chance
that
that
Sen
something you
poops.
get caught short.
Yeah,
That's why I always have like other medications and things like that, and
yeah.
yeah, just in
So,
case.
we've talked a little bit about drayage. We've talked a little bit about why we have certain things. So, by the way, people, I don't know if you knew this, but concrete is horrific to stand on because it has no give whatsoever. It doesn't compress, right? And
Mhm.
so we're used to, as humans, walking around on things that actually do compress, like earth and grass and carpet and things like that, which is why after a day on, say, parquet flooring, even hardwood floor, you feel a little bit bad.
Yep.
But under all of those, they usually have built a layer underneath of like either an air gap or a subfloor. That doesn't happen in concrete. In concrete, you got inches and inches and inches of just pure solid concrete that even if it has air bubbles in it, it's not going to give. And so this inflexibility of the substrate really does a number on your back and your hips and your
Mhm.
knees and your ankles, which is why you need good shoes and you need flooring if you're going to be standing in the same place at the same time. And you need to take a break and sit down, which is why you need chairs, right? So all of those things are really like whenever anybody asks me, what is a must thing from a booth? It's like good shoes, flooring, clean socks,
Water,
water, you know, things for your
throat
voice,
lozenges,
throat
yeah.
lozenges, yeah. Those are the things you need, and like some protein, pens, right? All those things are things you need. Safety pins, just to
Tape,
do gaffer tape, stuff to do like quick repairs. Um, at
tissues.
Yeah, at anime conventions, if you guys aren't into anime or cosplay, you wouldn't know this, but at anime conventions, there are often people who feel that their role is to be the cosplay repair people, and they go around and they have like a
They've
big
got
cross on their shoulder, like they're cosplay first aiders, and they have like glue guns and tape and you know things to help you clean up the errors that happen when you're in a crowded convention hall and you bump into people while you're wearing your really well done cosplay, right?
and
So
a lot of them actually build in stuff into their cosplay. Like I've met several people who, have, for example, enormous fake breasts or something as part of their outfit, and inside there's all of their like cosplay repair and con
yeah,
survival
I mean
stuff and
those are the
things. So
real
I'm like,
con moms, right? For
that's
real.
yes, exactly.
All right. So then we talked a little bit about con kits, which we got to, which is good. Um, but I know that what Pauline Fate was talking about was scheduling. So at a con, how do you keep on top of all the scheduling stuff? Because
I
there's
mean,
lots of
in a
stuff you
lot of
need to do and
cases,
want to do.
there's yeah, a lot of cases, one of the things that conventions don't schedule in is food and rest. And
Yeah, and
that's one
showers.
thing I've got to say that Expo does really well is that they have like they have breakfasts often, and then they have, as an event, and then they'll have the panels in the morning, and then there is a lunch break, and then there, like in all of the scheduling, there is a lunch break, and then the hall opens in the afternoon, and then
Yeah,
there is a dinner break, and then the evening things happen. So there's space for people officially to eat. Now, as an exhibitor, you get an hour cut off either side of that in a lot of cases
yeah.
because you have
Setting
to
up
get
and
in
tearing
there
down or
first.
whatever,
You
yeah.
need to, and in our case, we were often moving from one event to the other because we had on Monday we had setup time, and then we had the media first look. So we needed to basically set up our booth and then tear half of it down to take to the other building to do the media first look and show off our stuff. And then pack all of that up and carry it around until the booth opened again, and then set our booth back up again. And then on Wednesday night, we did it again. We tore it down most of our booth and carried it back again, and then we did the game night in the evening and then carried that around the next day until the area until it opened up so that we could put our stuff back.
Right.
So yes, we do have feedback about that.
Yeah.
That was a bit
There are often apps that the cons have
yes.
or schedules that they have. I make sure that I build my schedules in like a spreadsheet or something, and then I use it as my home screen on my phone for the event,
Ah,
so that I can always just have it there. So, oh, where am I supposed to be? Where am I supposed to be? And I just change it every night, um, because I schedule meetings, yeah, like that,
my
uh,
calendar, which is
and then I
all
just
yellow, by the way. Those are all conventions I attended. That's March. That's my March. It's a lot.
yeah. And so I'll just take a photo of that and put it as my home screen so I don't even have to open my phone to look at it. Um, Oftentimes just learn to like build travel time between things because you'll get stopped. People will talk to you. People want to know what you're doing. You want to be friendly, right? So I never go back to back with meetings. I'm always like half an hour. If not a half an hour, then it's at least 15 minutes between meetings. I'd rather have a half an hour because in Gen Con, especially Gen Con, you
Oh
could
goodness.
be running all over the place. Essen's even worse. Essen, you could be going from a different building to a
Mhm.
whole different building, and it's getting like that at Gen Con. I had meetings in the main hall, but I had been demoing in Lucas Oil, which is like, a good
The
10,
f
15-minute walk,
Yeah,
right?
that's a long way.
So that plus hydration and pinball machines on the way that you wanna play and,
Isn't that
going to the
amazing though?
washroom.
For the people
Yeah.
who don't know, so, um, on the way into the Lucas Oil Stadium, yes, you get to play games on, like, the grass area, which is covered over in the Lucas Oil Stadium. It's amazing. But, there's a tunnel on the way through, and it's just full of pinball machines. That
Yeah, it's
was, I
awesome.
think, one of the least expected things for me
I love
about Gen
pinball,
Con.
so
It was
it was
super
very
cool.
fun. Yeah, and take time for yourself. Make sure you're scheduling meals, like at least 2 meals, at least, 6 hours of sleep, and at least 1 shower a day. It's like the 6-to-1 ratio is
At
is a
least 1
good
shower.
good way to do things. Yeah, if you're boothing, make sure that you bring a fresh shirt for every day,
Yes.
right? Or wear a shirt under the shirt that has your company logo on it. Because it can get hot and sticky and you're lifting boxes and you're sweating because you're talking to people for the first time and all that kind of stuff. It can get to you. So I have many shirts of the same company logo on it. I work for different companies on different days or none on some days. So that's great. I can wear whatever I want. But I usually wear another shirt underneath it just to make the shirt last longer, just in case I need to have it on or something happens, like I spill food on it because you're running around with like, hot chicken and you're like, "Ah, I spilt it on me." So, yeah, just be aware of that, but do build in breaks for food and for rest and for socialization and a shower. Showers are good. I know, Cat specifically is a pool monster, like Daryl Andrews is a pool monster, and
If I
so
possibly can,
yeah, you
yes.
find time to go and use the amenities at the hotel that you
Yes,
actually pay for. I
yes.
bring my swim trunks to every single convention. I have never in 15 years got into the pool.
Oh my goodness.
I actually don't
It's
like pools that much.
well, the
I'm waiting for a sauna. I love saunas, but they're
well,
rarer
see,
in North
the thing is
America,
that it
so
helps a lot with pain for me as well,
yeah,
because standing in general is very painful for me, and so because I have hip issues.
yeah. I
I
mean,
mean,
Jessica,
probably less mermaid, honestly. I
yeah.
just walk up and down in the pool, and I scroll on my phone. And just like catch up on all my social media work. So I'm actually still working, but I'm doing it in the pool, which helps a lot. And last year's GAMA Expo, we had morning meetings every day in the pool in Reno. And that was less feasible here because we weren't actually staying in the Galt House, which had a pool. We were staying in a different hotel, which didn't. And Galt House and the convention center were about a 10-minute walk apart.
Right.
So and our hotel was about 15 minutes walk away for me as well. So basically, there was a lot of walking and then a lot of standing.
Yeah, if you can build a meal into a meeting, do it. It's a nice way
Yeah,
to do stuff. It's you're sharing a meal. You get to, it's a little less pretentious. It's a little more relaxed.
yeah,
So yeah, do that. Other things, before you go to convention, make sure you're setting up those meetings so you don't just show up and cold call somebody. They never like that. Even if they
no,
know you, they don't like it. Like I know lots of people. I still make sure that I am being professional, right? And calling ahead or emailing weeks in advance and saying, "Hey, I have this thing I'd love to show you. Do you have some time for me at Gen Con?" Or people will just email me and say, "Hey, let's set up a meeting at Gen Con." That's fine. But yeah, schedule. Most publishers nowadays, if they take external um, designs, they'll, a couple weeks before the convention say, "Here's my Calendly," or whatever scheduling software they're using. Go pick a time that works for you. All the times work for me. And that's a really nice way of doing it. People who are like that tend to have staff at their booth and they can walk away from their booth to do things. But that's a problem sometimes. You got to plan on where you're going to meet inside of the convention center. So sometimes, if it's again a big enough company that actually have room inside their booth to do that. So if you go, say, pitch the op, if you're pitching to Pat Marino or Tony Cipriani at the op, they build a little building inside of their booth, which is why last year's cabana for the surf motif that they had worked as their pitching space and their meeting space, which is great because they get to meet with manufacturers and other publishers that they're co-publishing with or designers that they're going to sign. So yeah, that's one place you can meet. Big companies like Asmodee, they have a whole room that they take you into, and all of the sub studios of Asmodee will like book a time and they'll just send you up to a room on the third floor or whatever. Essen is even worse. As not worse, but better in some ways. They usually have like space, but you have to run to it because it's
Yeah.
usually very far away. So yeah, lots of that stuff. So plan to, if you're gonna pitch for half an hour, remember to tack like 15 to 30 minutes on either end of that so you can get to where you want to go. And
And bear in
not leave
mind as
people
well,
standing and waiting for you. Not
one of the
professional.
other things that people don't realize is when they're thinking about their own schedule is they don't think about the fact that the person they're booking things with is also trying to manage all of these things and maybe
Yeah.
running slightly late. And so if one person runs late, you still want to make sure you've got space to have enough time with them and that you're not going, oh, I'm really sorry, you were 10 minutes late, but I still have to go on time because I've
Yeah.
got another meeting.
So the best thing to do in those cases, honestly, is cancel. Like, don't push yourself and other people back because then everybody gets pushed back. Just cancel it, reschedule it for another time. Say, "Oh, we can meet on Zoom later," or "Can we meet later in the week?" Or "How late are you staying?" Because some people stay till the Monday or Tuesday for travel reasons, right? And some people leave on the Sunday. But, work it out, be professional about it. I think that a lot of other things in terms of the scheduling and whatnot, just, if it's around lunchtime and you say, "Hey, we're gonna meet at this time. Can I bring you something?" Because a
Yes,
lot of people at booths never get out of their booth, especially if they're a small publisher with, like, maybe 2 to 3 people. If they have staff, guess who gets to go eat? The staff. Guess who doesn't get to go eat? The owner, right? So, be kind if you can, right?
yes. And another thing, it is good to schedule meetings and things like that, but if you haven't been to conventions yet, or if you feel like you're already going to be sufficiently overwhelmed with what you've got going on, there is no obligation to book meetings.
No, not at all.
And a lot of people I've spoken to are like, "Oh my god, I suppose I should book up everything." And I'm like, Don't do
No.
that. You don't have to. There is no obligation. It's a good idea if you want to talk to
Yeah.
publishers to book meetings with them. It is not a requirement for you to fill your schedule with meetings so you don't actually get to go to the convention.
Yeah.
So,
Something you can do at a first convention is just, like, bring your card. You don't have to
yeah.
bring any prototypes or anything else. I know it feels like a lost opportunity, but you'll probably be more happy.
And you're
But
selling you.
yeah, go around and just introduce yourself and say, "Hey, I don't need a meeting. I just wanted to shake your hand and say that I'm really interested in your product line. I have some designs that I'd love to show you sometime, but we don't have to meet this time. I don't actually
Yes.
have any projects with me, so we can't. But I'd love to reach out to you after the con. Would that be okay?" Or something like that, right? And just hand them your card. Like Kat said, selling yourself in this industry is perhaps more important than selling your game because selling one game sells one game. Selling yourself leads to opportunities, leads to so many opportunities. I know that myself personally, we were not in it to sell any specific game. Jay and I went in with the mandate of we are going to present ourselves as pros, as professionals, right? And how do we do that? We had the best pitches, the best sell sheets that we could make. We practiced our pitches. We scheduled ahead of time. We met with people and we just talked to them as opposed to trying to always be the hard sell, right? So,
Yes, avoid the hard sell. That's really unprofessional. Um, every publisher that I've actually spoken to has said, "All I want to do is get to know you, actually."
yeah.
And I've spoken to quite a few now. I've gone from sort of super nervous, brand new, "Oh my god, I'm pitching someone that I've heard of, this is terrifying," to just being like, "Oh, hey, I thought I'd just have a chat to you about what we do, who we are, and, look, let's follow this up when it's not absolutely,
Yeah.
feral, and everyone's tearing at you to get your attention. Let's have a chat, but now you know who I am, and thank you so much for your time," bring them something. I mean, it's often nice when you're working at a booth or something like that if someone just says, "Hey, I've got a muesli bar or I've got this little sealed bag of, sweets or something like that. Here you go.
Yeah.
This is for you."
It's especially nice if you're from a foreign country
And
and
you
you
bring
bring them
something from
snacks
there.
from that country.
Yes.
People love that. Like,
Yes.
I walked around with a cooler, and threw, like, coffee crisps at people.
What's a
One
coffee
con.
crisp?
Oh, you're not you know, a coffee crisp is a Canadian chocolate bar that
Mm.
unfortunately is made by Nestle, so I don't do it anymore.
Oh,
That is it has, like, coffee flavor-ish and,
okay.
like and wafer in it. So I like crunchiness, and I like the sweet coffee. I don't like coffee itself, but I like coffee crisps, so anyway, so I would walk around, like, and just and I would actually take order before the gathering, I take orders. Like, people will say, "Hey, can you pick me up this thing?" It's like, "Sure, I don't care. What am I gonna do?" And then I just people just give you the money, or I don't even care about it. It's like, "Here's the candy you wanted. Do I owe you anything? No, I don't care. It's candy." Right? And it's not to say you're ingratiating yourself with people, but it's just an act of kindness that
And
wouldn't you
they're
like to be
friends.
treated that way, right? Wouldn't you like to be treated that way? And therefore,
Yeah.
yeah, there is that sort of thing. Well, so friends and parasocial relationships, we have to be kind of careful about in the industry because it is an industry that is based on handshakes and friendships and dealing with people you see like often enough. Like I actually see some of the people at conventions more than I see my actual friends in real life, which is weird when you think about it, right? But a lot of my friends in real life don't live in the same city that I do, and I never go to
Yeah.
their cities. So,
Most of mine are still in
yeah.
New Zealand. Hi, friend.
Right? See, there you go. Um, anyways, so let's move on. Jess Andrews says, Kat, you have shared with how hard it can be to get into conventions, and I think that was from the angle of getting a booth. Now, how hard is it to get to cons as a guest, even if you hope to do more in the industry down the line?
So this is a good one. We actually started talking about this just before the show. How hard is it to get in as a guest, as in a panelist or further from that? From my perspective, I've been incredibly lucky to be invited to be a panelist by people I know who do a lot of panels. And as a result, thank you, Nicole, I was a panelist at PAX East, PAX West, and PAX Unplugged last year, which is phenomenal given how new I am relatively to the industry. In general, this is not common, but it's not impossible. It is basically making yourself available. All of these conventions open up suggestions for panels, so you can suggest panels. You can, and if your panel's approved, then you will be a panelist, and you have to have like a group of other people that you put in there. Um, so, what's a good topic that you want to talk about, and who do you want to talk about it with? Do you know them? Do you have connections? Submit it. Why not? A lot of these amazing panels come from people going, I wish that someone had talked to me about this thing. In terms of just being someone who just wants to attend a convention, just show up, like just get a badge and go to the convention. But if you're wanting to be someone who's on a panel, getting to know people who do panels, at the end of a panel, there's always a bit of time to chat to them. Whereas people like Sen, for example, have had experience above that of being
I'm
guest speaker,
really,
keynote, those sorts of things.
I'm really crooked. Sorry, I'm the
You're
crooked.
so crooked. So tell
Yeah.
us then, how did that happen for you? How did you get so
Well,
crooked?
I mean, well, I speak professionally, right? So that's my job is just teaching, right, all day long. So I'm very used to talking, very used to speaking, and I have a very overinflated ego. No, I'm kidding. I don't actually have an overinflated ego. I have a very consistent ego, I think. But I have a lot to say, and people often like what I say, so they want me to say it more. And if somebody gives me a topic, I don't know if there's any topic in the world that I couldn't talk about for 5 minutes given enough time to prepare, right? That's how confident I am in my ability to speak about things. So whenever anybody asks me to come to a convention, I'm like, sure, why not? Right? What could it hurt? It doesn't hurt anything. And so I do all sorts of weird topics at the smaller conventions. Like I'm doing one on April the 5th. Myself and James Mendez Hodes and Fonda Lee we're going to be doing a panel at Big Bad Con online. So if you want to be a part of that and come see it, that'd be great. And we're doing you'll like this, Cat. It's on using martial arts as a narrative tool in game design. Right?
Oh
Isn't that
my
neat?
god, that sounds so cool. I'm really
Yeah.
interested.
Yeah, so both myself and James are martial artists, and Fonda Lee is also a martial artist, but she is an author of a critically acclaimed series called the Greenbone Saga, which is about kind of Chinese adjacent gangsters in a fictional world, and it has lots of martial arts in it. And so James is, I don't know if I can say this, but I'm going to say it anyways, making a game about the books with Fonda, and I'm consulting on it. So we have the whole team, well, not the whole team, but parts of the team that are actually the ones who are really interested in martial arts on this panel to talk about how we use martial arts as narrative tool in giving meaning to, structure to, and connection to story. Anyway, so that's part of it, but
That's
it's just
exciting.
it's just getting out there. If you have something to say, something to talk about that you think you can talk about, um, even not you don't even have to talk about it. Sometimes they can allow you to do different things. So a panel, you are kind of the expert, right? A workshop is just an activity that you're guiding, right? And then a round table may be more like, hey, let's just get around this table and talk about this thing. I have a couple prompts that I think I'd like to talk about, but I'm not the expert, right? So there's various ways that different conventions can do this. Sometimes they have one of those, sometimes they have all of them, sometimes they just have some of them. And so you have to find out. But I think, Jess, another question that we can answer for you is participation as maybe part of the convention committee or the convention staff or something like that.
Volunteers.
The volunteers.
I just volunteered at UnPub, and I was also another thing that you can do at conventions is host things. So I
Yeah,
just co-hosted the second Pro-Am Game Jam that I've hosted,
which is fun.
um, which was wildly chaotic again. um, did my best, um, but that's the kind of thing. Like if you're someone who's willing to, I mean, the last one, I think I got maybe 2 days notice or something like that that I was going to be co-hosting it, and I'm the kind of person who can. I'm just like, yep, sure, that's fine. Yep. I mean, someone can ask me, oh, this person's just said that they can't make it. And I'm like, all right, fine. Yep. What's it about? What's the format? All right, cool. When is it? Half an hour? All right, see you there. So having those abilities is also an advantage. And if that's something you can do, Sarah Ship had a great way of putting it is become the expert on something and get known for being that person. So Sarah has just started writing a blog and has, as a result of writing this blog, become known as an expert on narrative and game design, and
Yeah.
particularly from a theatrical perspective, and has just published a book about it.
Yeah, which is
And
which is the best thing ever. Like Sarah's awesome, but I think
mm,
it's really just to kind of carry on there. It's that different perspective
yeah,
that is so needed in this industry, um, from a person who has lived experience in theater production and a
yes,
master's of fine art in theater and set design and all that kind of stuff. She is the perfect person to kind of come in and shake it up a little bit and say, "Have you ever thought about it from this perspective?" Because she
yes.
and I have very similar views on this, but I would rather hear her views than my views any day of the week because she has that different perspective that just makes me think differently about this subject. It's very cool, very cool.
I really enjoy how academically she approaches a lot of it, and we do disagree on some things, which is cool because it's been. I don't know if people know, but I did postgrad in classics, and it's been a really long time since I've argued um, academically about things, and it's very satisfying to argue with another academic about stuff in that way, because it's a very different thing from your average internet argument, which basically very
Yes, no,
rapidly
yes,
turns ad
no, yes,
hominem.
no. Yeah.
And it's like, oh well, your hair's all different colors, so you don't know. Oh, okay, cool. Block. And that's the end
Oh,
of that one.
another thing you can do, Jess, is you can, sorry for truncating your name, Jessica. You can actually work for a publisher. So
Yeah,
that's another way to go to conventions is working for publishers. I would say that nowadays, they don't usually ask for volunteers anymore unless they're very, very small. And in that case, you can decide what you wanna do. But if it's a very big publisher, they should be paying you as an employee to work there. They should be covering your expenditures. Usually what it is, it's like, "We'll pay for your badge, your hotel, your food, but we can't pay for travel,"
yeah,
because they don't know where everybody's coming from. And I think that might be fair enough, right?
yeah.
And that really does get your foot in the door. In fact, one of my best learning experiences, and this is after I was a published designer for many years, was working a con for a friend. She was a distributor, and she was actually owned the game store that I grew up in, kind of. So she's like my game mom. And so
Oh,
we just worked with her for one convention. It was myself and Alara and Helena and Scott, uh, the people that I make games with and people that I do dev work with. That's like the whole developmental team that I work with and the whole Kingdom Rush team, right? And we just went there. We learned how to teach other people's games. And it was just eye opening from a design perspective, from a rules writing perspective. We got to see what hit with people, what didn't hit with people at a convention setting, which is very different than I have all the time in the world because at Gen Con, you really don't have all the time
no.
in the world to teach somebody. They want to go to the next big thing. If you aren't able to stop them in their tracks and teach them something really quickly, they have other things they'd rather be doing, right? So, anyways, it's a really good learning experience. See if you can get on with a team from there. And if you're out
And
in the East
sorry.
Coast, there are actually publishers out in the East Coast who might be looking for people to do work with them.
And the other thing that's really helpful, Jess, I see from your comments that you're sort of worried about how overwhelming a convention can be, and you're absolutely right. They are incredibly overwhelming. But one of the things that I find reassuring about having a base, so working for a particular publisher, so that particular that booth is my base or my nest, as I often refer to it. It's that it's your safe place. So
Yeah,
once you're behind the booth, it's a very different feeling. You are in the place that you know what to do, you know who's around you. It's actually much less overwhelming in the booth, even though at the same time you're working, 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 because you know what to do. If you imagine when you were trying to understand, the concept of driving in general, compared to how you feel now when you're behind the wheel of a car after you've learned to drive and those sorts of things, it's much the same. Like, you know how all of the bits that you need to use work, and unlike being behind the wheel of the car, you're unlikely to get hit by a truck.
right.
That was
I
my
did get
very
hit by a
helpful.
truck. It's no fun. Don't do it.
Not at a
Ja
convention
yeah,
behind a booth though, right?
no.
Yes, okay, good.
Although I've been to conventions where they've driven trucks and cars into the convention center.
Yes, that's why I said unlikely, not impossible,
Yeah.
because I've also seen, the speed at which sometimes some of those things go zoom past you and you're like,
Oh, I'm
"Sir, you
talking
are a
about for, like,
forklift."
I'm talking about displays, like Jason Brenner, moved a whole, like, 18-wheel rig, the big rig into the convention center when they were doing the Big Trouble in Little China display because Big Trouble in Little China, the main character drives a truck, and so that was there. Just the company is Vesuvius Games, and it's actually out of Halifax, Nova Scotia, but, East Coast is East Coast. I know it's obviously not in the same province, but, um, Newfoundland is huge, but, maybe there's something else out there as well. The one that I was specifically thinking of, but I'll look for you, so there you go. Oh, yeah, sorry, Helena's at a meeting. Is that meeting about butter tarts, H? Because if it's not about butter tarts, then, it should be about butter tarts. Have you ever had
What's
a
a
butter
butter
tart,
tart?
Cat?
Mm-mm.
Oh, it's a very Canadian thing. A butter tart, is a tart that has, like, a syrupy, gooey, buttery mass in the middle, um, that is delicious unless it
Sounds
has
yum.
raisins, and then I don't want it. Because
Why do
th
people put raisins in
some
things?
people think raisins belong there. I am in the anti-raisin camp.
The
Um,
only place that I think, actually, no, not raisins, I like currants. I like currants in my hot cross buns, but that's because hot cross buns are just for special, like, they're just Easter occasions,
right, right, right. If you had them all
not
the
all
time, they're
year.
bad. Yeah, so Jess is right that it's like a sugar pie with pecans on top, or you could say pecans if you wanna say it that way. I don't know
So
who
is it
why
along the
I'm saying it that
lines
way.
of a pecan pie?
Uh,
Pecan sounds very strange in my accent. Actually, they both sound weird in my accent.
how do you say it?
I'm not even sure. When I
I
first
love
read
it.
it, I thought it was pecan, and I was like, "That sounds horrible." But I've heard pecan, but that's definitely not my accent. So it sounds like I'm making fun of Americans, which, to be fair, I am a little bit. When I say pecan, because it doesn't sound right. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what I say.
Yeah, yeah, it's very similar. It's like, maple, syrup, brown sugar, butter,
Mm.
egg, vanilla, salt, and a little bit maybe of vinegar. So it's got this it's just
Ooh,
tasty and good.
sounds good.
And it's hand and yeah, Jess is right, see? But handheld
It's a little
size,
one.
So less guilt when you eat the whole thing. That's awesome. Now you need to make a butter tart game, Jess. Do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're so rich. You're right. Yeah, half is enough normally. But if that half has raisins in it, I don't want it.
Noted. Noted.
No raisins. Anyway. So Helena posted something today about like the best butter tart in Ontario festival, and then
Ah,
a bunch of us said we should go. We should all go. We should have a meetup. And then another one of our friends, Dylan, who's up in Ottawa, said, "Why don't we just get a B and b for all of our families for the whole weekend?" And we're like, "Yes, let's do that. Eat butter tarts, play games? Yes,
this sounds
please."
fine.
Right? It all
I could
sounds
I
fun.
could do that.
Yeah.
I mean, not now because, oh my god, my schedule this year is, ugh.
See, Cat, you gotta make time in your schedules for butter tarts. They are like a thing.
Well, now that
Oh,
I know
but you
what
know where
they
you
are.
are? Where you are, you're actually by another Canadian delicacy called a Nanaimo bar. Nanaimo
What's
bars.
that? Nanaimo. I've heard of that, I think.
Jess, can you explain what a Nanaimo bar is?
I'm gonna ask the internet.
Jess is going, but all the sticky fingers, not near the games, not near the
Ooh.
games. Oh, hey, TK, it's good to see you. Edward Taylor King is here. He of the
Oh.
fame of galactic cruise type stuff. Good
Hey,
job on that, by the
TK.
way. Wonderful job. Is that still going
Absolutely
on?
killing it.
Is it still going on? I don't even
Is
know.
it? I don't know because I haven't checked on it recently, but once I knew that it was like 1,000,000% funded, I was like, "They're gonna be fine. Good luck with the fulfillment."
Right? So I gotta say something that they had a huge user base built up, like of like what was it, TK? 7,000 people ish that were signed up to get notified on day one. And that's, that's kind of what you got to do, right? Is
Oh, yeah.
you bring the crowd, kick funder,
Kick funder.
kick funder does the rest.
That's what we
Kickstarter does the
call
rest.
it now.
Yeah, so this is very much a Nicole Amato quote here, right? Is that if you can bring the crowd, Kickstarter can do a lot for you. If you can't bring the
Yes.
crowd, Kickstarter can only do so much. So they did an amazing job of that, and they deserve all the
Yes.
success they're garnering
But
right now.
also, they've made an epic game and,
Sure.
they have Ian O'Toole illustrating it and all of these other things, and they've
Yeah.
been to, like, every convention in the world.
Yeah, they're
13,000 Kickstarter followers, TK.
yeah, that's awesome, and they're
Wow.
working it. Now, of course, maybe we should have, the team on sometime, the
Yeah.
KCP team on sometime to talk about how they manage that, because it's not typical,
That is very unusual. I mean,
and there's
I've
there's a
been
reason
working.
that I don't wanna say on air yet without TK and crew being here, but yeah, it is a thing that, is atypical, but it's worth thinking about and talking about, because how do you emulate that, and how do you get um that level of pre-game, like, input, and pre-game, like, building up that vibe and that hype, right? So there you
Yes. Oh,
go.
we'll get in touch with you, TK, and we'll get that lined up because I think that would be really interesting, to get you on here now that we know how it's gone,
Yeah, like, let's
particularly
let's do the
because it's
aftermath, right?
yeah, like, a lot of people think, "Oh, once you've funded, the better you fund, the better it is," and I would love to hear how that feels now that you're looking at, "Oh, there's so much work now."
Yeah, I mean, there's actually been some horror stories that people don't hear about often, about how success is actually can be a risk, right? So
And
we'll
I
talk
get the
about that.
feeling that TK and his team have actually planned for this and have, they
Yeah,
have
plan
things
for
in
success
place to
for
handle
sure.
that.
Yeah.
But,
You're
a
that's
lot of
right.
a lot of companies have gone under because they've done too well in their
Yeah.
Kickstarter and have gone, "Oh, no, we have to fulfill 200,000 orders? N no,
Yeah.
what? Ah."
Yeah, the work is only about to begin. So Jess found it here. Jess, so,
Hey.
a Nanaimo bar
Yes.
is from the west coast of Canada, and it is a coconut chocolate base with vanilla middle top with milk chocolate ganache.
I've already sent George the recipe and put in my order.
It
He
is
knows
it is
what to do.
they're lovely. If you like those things, it is super rich. Like, it's like condensed milk in solid form, right? So It's lovely, and I love them, but you can't eat too many of them.
No, I
Like, when
think
you
we'll
get a
make it
Nanaimo
when
bar, it's
we're
literally like
gonna.
this little square, and you that's good. I've had enough Nanaimo bar in my face for a while. Um,
I think, but so one of the things we're talking about is what's happening next for us as well. And so tomorrow we're going to be at GameStorm, and then immediately, so that's a local Portland convention, and then immediately after that, we are driving down to Santa Rosa in California, where we get to be in a game design retreat. And I think that could be an opportunity to make Nanaimo bars because I think last count there'll be 19 of us in
oh,
this.
wow, that's awesome.
Enormous place, which is very exciting. And so that's enough people to bake something like this.
Yeah,
One of my favorite things along these lines is a family recipe called chocolate lemon slice.
sounds
So
lovely. I like chocolate, I
what
like
what
lemon.
Americans, well, North Americans call bars, New Zealanders and I think Australians tend to call a slice
Oh,
in
yeah,
this
we call them
sense.
bars for sure.
So
Yeah, like just like that big
it's
little
well, yeah,
no.
but it's the way that it's baked is in a tray and then cut up.
Yeah, cut up, yeah.
Those things we call a slice.
We call them bars, you're
You
right, yeah.
generally call them a bar. So
I do. I don't even generally, that's all I call them. I've never called them a slice in my life. It's just a slice of
well,
life.
for me, a bar is something like a chocolate bar or something like that. That's or a muesli bar or
Oh,
something, and
okay, so
it's got
this
to
is
be in
actually
this shape.
true. Jess has a good point that you need a 20th person, then you can validate the Nanaimo bars, right? Especially somebody from Canada who can then say that that is an official Nanaimo bar.
Don't know if we do. The host as well as Corey Thompson. Hi, Corey. So that
Yeah.
does make 20. But I don't know if any of the people present will be from Canada.
Mm.
So
Corey's been to Canada. He was just up here like a
oh,
couple months
okay.
ago. So
I wonder if he's
maybe he
Nanaimo'd.
knows. I don't
Yeah,
think so. I don't know. He was with Daryl, so who knows?
yeah.
Yes, Jay Ben Dixon is confirming that Down Under and next to Down Under slice all the time. Slice all the way.
Good on you, Jay. Cheers, mate.
No, Zach, nobody eats salads while playing games.
No,
That
because you're gonna get, like, leaf on your game.
leaves.
It's just not I don't
By
wanna
the
get leaf
way,
anywhere.
speaking of conventions that we were just at, if you ever get a chance to be at a convention where Zach Connolly is there and get a chance to play Sick Inc., do it because it's fun.
Sick ink.
Sick
Which kind
Inc.
of sick? Sick
Like
as in
yo,
unwell or
Sick
sick
Inc.
as in the same?
dog.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Cool, cool.
Um, it is kinda cringy and kinda fun all at the same time, and it's wonderful, and it will probably never get signed, unless Zach decides to do it himself, and I don't know. You know what? I think it could get signed if there's somebody creative enough or figures out how to do the things without being, completely toxic, and I don't mean toxic behavior, I mean toxic chemicals.
Oh,
I think you can
okay,
do
here we
it. I think you
go.
can do
I
it.
was like, "There's some shade coming out right now. I'm sorry, Zach."
No,
But
no,
no, okay, we're
Zach
good.
and I love each other. We're old friends.
I
Um
think it's Nanaimo.
Yes. Yes. I don't know who's on the UnPub account right now, but you're right. Play it with the lacrosse players because they give it the biggest pop. They were hilarious. So at UnPub Prime in Maryland just the last weekend, uh, Zach was playing this, and for some reason there were a couple conferences. Well, I mean, this happens at a big hotel, right? So there's UnPub, there was the Bayonet Antique
Yes.
Bayonet Foundation, which I was not going into, under threat of being bayoneted. And then there was a high school lacrosse team, and they were like fascinated by this bunch of nerds playing games. And they walked through, they got their playtesting badges because it's free, right? Unpub is free for playtesters. And they came through and they
That's
place tested
okay.
games. And if you saw a bunch of teenage boys in slides, walking around, with, like, muscles and stuff, that was the lacrosse team, and they came and played Zach's game, and they loved it, and they would tell people on their team, "You gotta go play this game, bro. Bruh, it's the best game ever, bruh." Right? Very fun. So,
That's
yeah.
super cute. I love that.
Ho, 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 another pun hits the deck. Yes, Zach, it will never be signed because it is too sketchy. Ho, 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 ho. The game is a drawing game,
Okay, there we go. I was
hence
like,
the pun.
"I'm not getting any of the jokes."
I
Okay,
know
now
it's
I get
okay.
it.
What the
Good.
heck is going on? Well, Jess, you'll have to go play with Zach because he's the only one who has a copy. 'cause it won't be signed. Zach, you know, you should just put the rules up with a print and play and let people play on their own accord and see if it becomes like this viral hit. Because I bet it would, and then I bet somebody would figure out how to sign it. Yeah, sign it's TK wants to play test now. There you go.
How amazing would it be if TK ended up publishing this game simply because Sen was like, "It will never be signed."
Well, I don't think it'll never be signed. Zach says it'll never be signed. Zach also publishes games himself sometimes, right? So
Ah.
Royal End Games is Zach, but it's he's like, no, never gonna sign it. Maybe this is him just like making like that FOMO, building
Yeah,
up
well,
the
maybe he's
FOMO
he's
for it
negging his own game so that
to
people are
like
like,
yeah.
"No, it's gonna be fine," but who knows?
Who knows? Zach is
Hmm,
a wily guy. And this is the first time I've actually physically met him, which is, going back to the topic of conversation, which is conventions, it was the best just to see people again, right? Just to
yeah.
get in touch with people. I think my last convention was Big Bad Con, which was September of last year. So it's been a while, it's been like 4 or 5 months since I've actually seen people in the gamosphere. And last year, my last major board game, because Big Bad Con is more it's not they do have board game stuff there, but it's West Coast and it's more RPGs. And so Gen Con was really the last time I saw lots of like board game specific friends and specifically East Coast board game friends. So yeah, that was a while ago. So it was nice to see people and just put names to faces, help people out. So when you're the keynote speaker, you don't just have to do a keynote. You have to do lots of stuff because they're expecting you to do things because they're paying your way. You're the guest, and
Mm,
so you have some perks, of course. The biggest perk, by the way, if you are like a Marriott Bonvoy member, get your stuff escalated as high as you can so you can get the club card because the club card in a Marriott gets you into the club room, and the club room at a Marriott gets you all the stuffs, which is like breakfasts, happy hour, which is like light dinnerish stuff, they had
charcuterie.
salads and stuff, yeah, charcuterie and stuff. Um, but also unlimited drinks. Fruit is up there, little snacks, cereal, that's always there. And so I spent a grand. You know how much I spent on food at this convention at UnPub? And I was there for 5 days?
$10.
Slightly more. I bought groceries for $20 and I had lunch with friends for $10. So I spent $30 total. I could have gone out for dinner more, but I was always caught up in like playtesting, which is like the reason why I'm there. Gen Con's a little different. I'll go out for dinners all the time, spend a lot of money there because it's a different vibe. But here it's like, no, I'm there to play test games because that's what people brought me there for. So I think the other thing about being a good guest is doing the job you're there for, right? So I gave the keynote with Erica. I was on all the panels that they asked me to be on. We did the
Pro-Am Game
um,
Jam.
yeah, the Pro-Am Game Jam that Cat and our good friend VJ Bell
DJ
ran.
Bell.
VJ Bell. We also did the Feedback Frenzy on the
Yeah.
on the night, which is great. And it's funny, I actually got to go around and play some of the games that I gave feedback to just to like see
Oh,
was my
cool.
feedback actually anywhere within the realm of correct, and a lot of it was. So
And
it's
were the
good.
pictures, representative of the games you played? Like, did they feel like they matched up well?
Some of them yes, some of them no. That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
So one of the biggest things that Erica said was you and Pat Marino from the op and I think we think alike in this way is that if you make me a promise and your game doesn't meet up to that promise, no matter how good your game is, I'm gonna have a negative feeling about it
Yep.
because you lied to me, bro.
This
Right?
is what I thought
So
you were gonna give me. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Don't oversell your game. Don't undersell your game. But also, if your game looks like it's going to be about combat because you have like ninjas and samurai on your game art and you never have combat in it, I'm gonna have questions, right? Unless it's now, oh, it's about stealth. Okay, that I get. You're avoiding all the combat, sure, but it still has combat
But
in it, but in a negative way, right?
it needs to be like, you
Make
need to be
it
telling
make
people a story.
sense, right? So
Yes.
Galactic Cruise, right? I have this picture in my head, Ian O'Toole's nice art of this retro futuristic cruise ship in space. And I know based on some of the meeples that I've seen, which are amazing, by the way, TK, that we're going to go, we're going to hire crew, we're going to put those crews into stations. They're going to do things that make the trip more enjoyable, probably for the people who are taking the cruise. That might be what the game is. I don't know. Well, actually, I do know. But anyways, my point being that I'm just making this up as I go along because I wanted to prove the point that I get that from that's the vibe I get from the game. If TK's game didn't provide me with that experience or close to that experience, I would feel kind of let down. And so when you're pitching a game to a publisher and you're trying to sell them the game, if they get something that isn't at all what you were selling them, they're going to feel lied to, betrayed, at least somewhat negative. I don't think it's gonna be like, "You betrayed me," but you wasted their time in the end
It
of
also
things.
makes it look like you
Yeah.
don't know, you don't
Yes.
understand your own game.
You don't know what your pitch should be,
So,
you don't know what your hook
yeah.
is, right? So,
It's like
um
Monopoly crossed with Azul, and then it's neither of those things. People are gonna go,
right, do you know how to
"Have you
sell your own
played either
game?
of those games? Do you
Yeah,
understand any of this? What are you doing here?" So just yeah, just don't do that.
yeah,
So, back to actual convention stuff. So, I think I mentioned as of tomorrow,
yes.
we are going to be at GameStorm, which is the local smallish convention here in Portland. So that's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We will be there being Drink with BubbleNet, which you can see above me here. We've got tables for that Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And what's super exciting is this is actually the first time that I've just shown a table, like I've said, come and play my game. And last I looked, Thursday, out of the 8 seats we have available, 7 of them are booked. So that's pretty cool. I encourage people to try that when that's an option if they're wanting to show their game. And then immediately after that, basically first thing Monday morning, as soon as we can get up, we are driving down to Santa Rosa for the game design retreat that we're on. Then we get back a week later, and then we've got about 5 minutes to catch our breath, and then we are heading out to Buffalo, New York. And Sen, tell us a little bit about what we're going there for because I can't speak to it at all.
Oh, yeah, because 'cause you're a red badge.
I'm a what? Is that?
You're a
Oh
red
no, is
badge.
that like a red shirt? Am I gonna die?
Yeah, we're gonna beam you down to the planet of Niagara Falls, New York, and let you loose. You actually might die. Niagara
Please
Falls, New
no
York.
barrels. I do not wish to
Yeah,
be in a
Niagara
barrel.
Falls, New York is not the nicest of cities. Niagara Falls, Ontario, on the other hand, is beautiful and
Is that
lovely.
because it's Canadian?
Kinda. Yeah.
Okay.
Socialist, I don't know. Anyway, so we're gonna be there for the gathering of friends, and this is, I don't know, my 15th gathering? I don't know, I've been there for a long time.
How many have there been? About 30, right?
Oh, there's been a ton. Like, there are people who've
Something
been
like
there for,
that.
like, 25, 30 years, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I've been there for 50, maybe 10, but I've been there for a lot. And the Gathering of Friends was started by Alan R. Moon, who is the designer of such games as
Train game of some
Ticket to
sort?
Ride and things like
Yeah,
that.
just a
So
small game.
he's a pretty cool dude. Anyways, this started off as a gathering of friends where Alan and his friends got together for a week to play games, and it eventually burgeoned into a little bit more than that when there were um, there's probably about 400 people. It's not a huge convention. It's just 400 of Alan's closest friends. And every year we get the ability to invite people, and those people have to be vetted and have to be, recommended by multiple people to, get the invite. And so every year that I can, I try to invite people that I work with or co-design with or things like that. So I got in a long time ago on this kind of this rider that anybody who was part of the Game Artisans of Canada at the time could go, which was lovely because I was at the time a member of the Game Artisans of Canada, still am, although it's kind of defunct. We don't do it as much anymore because everybody in the Game Artisans has really risen to a level where we can't really give as much to everybody else in the same way. We do it individually as opposed to an organization, which means we probably have to start it again or somebody should start it again. Like, I really am sad that it's gone, but I also can't be the one to do it. Anyways, long story short is that this year, Cat got invited. And so Cat has a red badge, which means she's a newbie, but it also means that everybody there has to treat you nicely, by force of law. Also because it's just really nice people there, which is the consensus, right? Which is when you can control the environment, you have the people that you want there. And people that aren't wanted there for whatever reason don't get to go. And it does sound exclusionary because it is, but for a reason, perhaps, that it's not a general convention. This is not your con. This or a general convention where anybody can just go buy a ticket for 35 bucks. This is a convention where you have to stay at the hotel that is blocked for you. You have to be there for a long time. You have to commit to being at this convention for long periods of time. Like not like I don't mean at the one convention. I mean like year after year after year. This is something that is this somebody who we think is going to stay at this convention for several years? That's what the deal is. Like Kat said, there's people who have been there. They're called black badges. They have 25 or more years, and they are people who have been playing games with Alan for that long. And so it's a really good mix of industry and people who aren't part of the industry but are just avid gamers who want to play test but don't always want to play test. And so it's actually where I go to play non prototype games because I can play games there, right? And do I prototype? Sure. Do I pitch? A little bit, not as much as I used to. I just want to see people who I consider actually my friends. Like it's actually a gathering of my friends. Um, It is like I said, it's a little bit exclusive, and I get that, and I get that some people in the industry are very much, against it. I also think that if you're somebody who is fighting and fighting and fighting and asking to be invited to the gathering of friends, you might not ever get invited because that's not the goal, right? It's weird. I understand that's weird too. But I never knew about it. Well, actually, I did know about it a little bit, but I never really said, "Oh, I want to go to that." That's my goal is to be invited to the gathering of friends, and then I just got invited because I don't know, just do good things, be cool, right? So
I mean,
anyway,
I'm immensely honored and flattered to have been invited, even though I mean, I knew that you had the capacity to invite people, but I
yeah,
also knew that it had to go through more hoops than that. And
yeah,
the email was worded somewhere along the lines of, you know, we've checked with multiple attendees and they said that you were good to go, kind of feeling. And I was like, oh wow, okay, that's it's awesome to be recognized for not being a toxic person, to the best of my ability.
yeah. Because I
And
mean, there are even people that I think are great people, but other people in the community may have reservations about, and they won't get an invite, unfortunately, right? And they
yeah.
know that, and they're okay with that. They know.
I mean, it's just like if I was inviting people to my house, you know, there are some people who are gonna be offended because 'cause they're not invited, but there are a bunch of reasons that I don't invite people into my home, and those are my personal reasons, and I'm allowed.
Yeah,
And I think this is along those lines, and that's easy to say because I've been invited. And so I do feel slightly weird about it, but
yeah.
I'm also just super excited to go to something that is just about hanging out and playing games. And because it's very long, it's like 2.5 weeks or something that I'm there, I think. Or
Uh,
it may not be quite that
it,
long. I've
it
gone a little
It's a
early.
week and a half, so it
Okay,
starts
it
on the
feels
12th and ends
oh yes,
the weekend
right.
after, the Sunday after.
Just when I look at it on my
Yeah,
calendar, it
it's
feels
quite
like
long.
a lot of April.
Yeah.
But it's what I'm really looking forward to is simply having a long enough convention that, 1, I'm not working it. I can just chill out and
Oh, yeah,
learn some
there's
games.
no booths.
Yeah, it's
Nobody
just playing
nobody
games
sells anything, it's just playing games. And
and
that
just
means you
get
have
to know
time
a
to
lot
go
of
out for
people.
dinner, you have
Yeah,
time to go swimming. It's the only con that I go to where I can actually exercise every day, right? So
like, all of these people that I know that I haven't actually got time you know, we've had time to have a quick chat or we've had a meal together, like a fast meal during a convention. I might get to play games with them.
yeah.
I'm so excited about actually just being able to sit down and play a published like, you and I, Sen, have never played a published game together.
Nope.
For example, I think we've played 1
We
prototype
played a couple
together,
prototypes together, but yeah.
maybe 2, yeah,
Mhm.
but that's it because we just you know, there's been other stuff we had to do, so
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
is that's
it's
pretty exciting.
yeah, and it's a remarkable thing that, that the business is like that, that I don't actually unwrap my I have so many copies of so many games that are actually in the box that they were shipped in, not just sitting on my shelf in the box in wrappers. They're in the box they shipped in cardboard and like foam peanuts because I just haven't had time to get them out of there. So this type of convention where I know that it's like a long-term thing, and I only live like 2.5 hours away, so I actually come back to work during the week and I go on the weekends. And I bring my marking with me because I know I'm going to be there for like 3 days in a row. So I'll mark papers at night and or in the
I mean,
morning usually, and then come out in the afternoon, go out for dinner, play games at night, go to
exactly.
bed, wake up, write my papers or mark my papers or whatever, right? So it's a much better it's longer, that's all.
One of the things that I feel very strongly when I attend an average convention is I feel this immense pressure, not FOMO, but just this pressure to make the very best of my time there the whole time because it's such a limited time. I'm like, oh, I have to make sure I do all of the things on my list, and I've only got 2 or 3 days to do it. What I'm really looking forward to is giving myself time to pace myself. And that's, yes, Jessica, this is exactly what I'm addressing here. I When I attended my first convention in the US, which was BGGCon, I didn't understand what my stamina was like, and I pushed myself so hard that I ended up just crying for no reason because I had forgotten to eat properly, and I had just stayed up way too late, and I wasn't sleeping well, and all of these things. How do you do it? Manage yourself like a toddler. Like, make sure that you have snacks, make sure that you have naps, make sure that you actually have a proper sleep, make sure that you eat real food, give yourself some fresh air, go
Yep.
outside, take breaks. Like,
It's
think about
all
all of
your
those.
frontal lobe. It's all frontal lobe stuff.
Look after baby you,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
And it's taken me a few conventions to learn what that means for me personally. But one of those, as Sen mentioned, is the pool. Basically, I try and start my day in the pool whenever I possibly can. It wasn't possible at UnPub, because my shift and the pool, started at the same time. Sadness. But
Oh my gosh,
yeah,
Amy, that's
yes,
so sad.
I'm still having
I
stress
hope you
dreams
don't
about
have
them
those stress
too.
dreams anymore.
I'm
It'll all
I'm
be over
still
soon. It'll all
absolutely
be over
having them.
soon.
I
You'll
don't
be
really know,
you'll
Amy,
be
how to help with that, but
serenity
you've
now.
also, I suppose, you've also had your convention, your Kickstarter running at the same time, and it
Sure,
must be
that's
very
gotta be
nice that
difficult.
that's out of the way too, and that it's funded. Congratulations! I'm very very happy because it's such a good game. I'm really glad that it's going to exist.
Oh,
That's
so
Hurt Party.
yeah, hurt party. Here's the game about apologies, it's awesome. Here's a thing that just got notified of, 2 minutes ago. Andrew Lowen, who is a marketing guy,
Crowdfunding
for
nerds.
yeah,
Yep.
crowdfunding nerds, he released a YouTube that uses Galactic Cruise, TK, as a case study. So
Oh,
he
neat.
yeah, he got to interview TK, KT, and DN. I'm just gonna use your initials for everybody from now on. So we don't have to do it, Cat, is what I'm saying. We can focus on the
Oh,
aftermath because Andrew
good.
already did our work
Thanks,
for us.
Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew. There you go. So go watch that on YouTube. If you want to know how Galactic Cruise converted 20% of their followers on day one. That's actually ridiculous, by the way, guys.
That's
That is a
spectacular.
really, really
Good
spectacular
work.
metric. That's how they did it. And find out how they did it, you can go listen to that interview. And then come listen to ours when we want to find out how if TK is going to survive all of this. All the success. There you go. All right. Cool, cool, cool. You know what? It is getting late and I
Yes,
have
it
a
is. I
meeting in
was
the
like,
morning.
wow, we were worried about not having enough to say, and now we're like, oh, oops, overtime.
No, oops, overtime. Faculty meeting in the morning, so I got to wake up.
Yep.
But yeah, you're right, James. It's a big question. How do people take time off from work to go? Has to be people with no young kids, right? Or a very supportive family. Like my family is very supportive of me that way. And I do, like I said, I drive back and forth. So I go for the first weekend, I come back for most of the week, and then go back for a chunk of the last weekend. So depends on when exams fall because it's usually during my exam week, which is actually very convenient for me. So that's how I get to do it. Jay only gets to stay for like 3 or 4 days usually, although life
Oh,
has
but
changed
he's
for him.
he's
So
this is his work now, so
yeah. So this
maybe
is
he'll be able
so
to stay
he's able to
longer.
stay longer, and also his family life has changed a lot, so That's also why he can do this at different times. So yeah, it is a big deal. But also it maybe this is where people want to spend their time and their vacation time to do this instead of something else. Um, the other note to know about the gathering is that your your significant other is immediately allowed to come with you. Your kids are not. So that is a thing. And your kids are allowed to be nominated once they are of age, like 18, I think is the age. So, and that may change over time. I don't know. But
I
yeah,
know.
a lot of people, a lot of families will make some concessions. Like I know Helena, who I was just talking about, and Josh Capel. So the Capels, they might come down together for a weekend and have their grandma watch the boys, and then Josh might go home and Helena might stay, and then Josh comes back and Helena goes back, and that kind of, so they people make it work, right? So yeah, there you go. Awesome,
It
Jocelyn.
is difficult having kids at things like this because, I mean, I've met several, gamer kids who are absolutely capable of handling this, but I mean, a lot of adults can't handle playing games all day, every day for several days in a row, let alone kids. Like, it's a
Yeah, I
lot to
mean, well,
ask of them.
the nice thing is that you are literally next to an entire fun park worth of stuff in
Yeah,
Niagara Falls, Ontario. So cross the
and it
bridge.
and it's so cool
Your
that we're just
dollar
gonna
is
get to
really
go check it
strong
out.
right now. Like,
Ooh,
you're at, like, 1.36, I think. It's really, really, yeah, just go to Niagara Falls, Ontario. There's lots of great restaurants over there. There's, like, water parks and all that kind of stuff. It's a little cold in, in April for that, but they're indoors, so I don't know. I never go to them,
I'm
actually.
not
My kids are too old for
my biggest complaint at, one of the places that we go to in Portland is that the cold water baths aren't cold enough.
that.
So, yeah, I'm good with cold water. It feels really good to have a nice cold, like, plunge.
Alrighty. Well, we're gonna say goodbye for now. It was super awesome chatting with you all. I love it. Jess is like, she's so glad. I'm so glad that you joined this chat and miss hanging online with y'all. Yeah, and we've actually been on fewer because of conventions. But we're gonna be next week. We're gonna be live from a convention because it will have. I think we'll
Well,
be a little bit. You'll be
design
live from
retreat.
convention design. So, what I mean is, it'll have a little bit more reliable internet, and you'll be able to control the environment a little bit better. It's harder in a hotel.
Yes.
We'll
Yeah.
try at the gathering because we'll both be
Yeah.
there, and I will probably be there on the Wednesday night because my exams are on Mondays and Tuesdays, so I
I'm
will probably be
flying they changed my flights, so I'm
oh,
flying during our show for the first Wednesday,
okay, well
but, George has suggested that he is willing to step up and potentially, replace me as a host for that particular
oh, let's
episode
do it.
if you wanna have a
That's it.
go.
I'm game. George, I
Who
just
wants to meet George? Raise your hand, don't care if you want to or not, you're going to. Yes, that's right.
we're gonna talk about jujitsu the whole time though,
I mean, that's
so
fine, that
we've
could be
just turned
really
this into a
interesting.
jujitsu podcast. Alright. Very cool. So, we'll talk about, game retreats and game jams and stuff like that next week with Carla Kopp, as well as some other stuff, I'm sure. Weird giraffe. It'll get weird and giraffe. And then after that, I'm not sure what we have, but we got other stuff planned. So don't worry too much. Keeps checking back to the channel. Keep spending time on Maple Syrup Shop Talk. I know we don't talk there as much as we should, but go there as
Sorry,
well.
trying.
And then yeah, I know we can, George. We definitely can. BJJ relates to everything.
I mean,
BJJ
George
is life.
literally has a BJJ game prototype.
Yeah, we can talk about
So,
that. We can work through
yeah,
that if you want. That'd be super fun.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Didi, we'll see you next week on YouTube as well, Facebook, all the things. Not really all the things, but there you go.
And maybe at GameStorm, Didi.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Hopefully you're there. So if you want to talk to me some more, you can reach me at Senfeng Lim on Twitter and Blue Sky. Cat, where are you?
Drea Ink on all the things.
And maple syrup on all the things. If you want to support us, keep the lights on here. We're patreon.com/maple syrup. And you know what? Those cameras that Tam had at UnPub,
I know. I
brilliant.
want one.
I
He
want
told me what they
two
were
or three.
called, and I wrote it
They're
down.
Logitech Mevos. Yeah,
Mevos, yeah.
they're really, really cool. So I
Yeah.
will look into those at some point in time. Hey, Kat, do you have any final advice?
Um, remember your toddler you and look after yourself the way that you need to. Pay attention to how you're feeling. Today I took a
Yeah,
nap during the day. Let
yeah,
yourself do that thing that you need to
yeah.
recover.
Check in with
Conventions
yourself.
are a lot. Feed yourself.
Yeah,
Carry the snacks you need.
you miss out more by being knocked out of commission than you miss by taking a short nap.
Yeah.
I know it's the FOMO is real, guys, but take care of yourself. All right, and next week, like I said, we'll be talking to Kat and Carla at a con, at a design
At the
retreat, a design
design
retreat. I just
retreat.
wanted
Yes,
everything to have a C in it. You know,
I know.
alliteration. Alliteration's a thing. All right,
Santa Rosa.
everybody.
Oh, California. There you go.
California. Yeah, we'll be
Yeah.
talking to Kat and Carla in California. All right.